did you, and you know, from now you're a non-player, and there's always non-players that are going into broadcasting. But when you were in charge of asking questions, who was a colorful interview? Who was cooperative? What player did you like to interact with? Because you interviewed hundreds of guys, obviously, on the other side of the fence.
Well, before we get to that, Billy, I was going to say the only player that I had that I really thought something of was Roy White, and I had.
Well, thank you.
And
I
yeah, thank you. That's
appreciate
right.
that.
That's right. So, and I never had the guts to tell him that. So when I was with the Yankees, Roy was working in the front office. I called him over to my locker and said, "Roy, look, I didn't have any role models or anything like that. I didn't believe in that kind of stuff. Well, at least from a baseball standpoint. But I always admired the sort of quiet, dignified way you played with the Yankees in those lean
Oh, how
years."
he reacted.
Yeah, right, Bill.
Yeah,
right.
Are you setting me up?
I've been harboring this. I've been harboring this all this time. He thinks I'm putting him on. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry. What was your next question?
No, that's true. That's typical Roy, though, too.
Yeah, yeah, right, Bill.
I was so happy about Roy that he still was near the top of his game when the Yankees started getting good again.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people remember that in 1976 he led the American League in runs. He was like 104 or something like that.
That's right.
At least the national audience got to see what a good run producer he was.
Yeah.
You know, because you're right, he paid dues in those years when
Took that
CBS
took
owned the
back
Yankees.
stands
Yeah,
a long ways, man.
yeah, yeah.
You know, no joke.
Actually, I enjoyed interviewing non-baseball people,
Oh.
like Jack Klugman,
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tim Daly. I had asked Tim, and I'm doing the Angels radio, and I had to do the pregame guests, postgame, pregame, whatever it was. And the players get tired of you after a while.
Sure.
And you see a young player coming up and you get excited, but the players get tired of you. So out in LA or Anaheim, you see a lot of Hollywood people, so I can talk a little bit. So there's Tim Daly. I say, "Hey, Tim, what's going up?" And I asked him something along the lines of, did you get an opportunity to go on set with your father, James, or your older sister, Tyne, when you were thinking?
Sure.
And evidently, he must have heard that question one time too many, because I could just
Oh.
sense him bristle, like people were saying he didn't get there and didn't earn it on his own or something like that. And I'm shaking my head as he's answering, like, no, I just want you on. I just need to fill 5 minutes. You say whatever you want to say. We're fine. And Dick Enberg, that was really good. And Dick talked about how nervous he gets, or he would get at times before a broadcast. I'm thinking, this is Dick Enberg. He's got all the Emmys and broadcasters of the years in the world. If he gets nervous,
That's
what do you think
amazing.
the rest of us feel?
That's shocking.
Yeah, that was like, wow.
That's an
just-
amazing thing when you
yeah.
hear a confession like
Well,
that.
you've gotten good stuff out of people. You thought, geez, that
I,
really
I once heard I
Wow.
once heard Bill Russell, you know, pretty much the greatest basketball player who ever lived. He said he used to throw up before a lot of games, and I thought of him as being the most focused athlete I've ever seen. You know, that's he grabbed 28 rebounds, but that was on the court. 10 minutes earlier, he'd throw up in the locker room. You never expect the people who actually get nervous. And there's other people who seem nervous
It's,
on the field, and they could care less.
was
you know?
there a most nervous time, month, week, year
In your life?
of a pitcher, playing the game? You're in the big leagues. Maybe you're struggling. Was there anything that you didn't go up to the home plate normal? You were overthinking, or nerves played because this guy's 10-2?
Oh, no, but I think you get in slumps where you look out and you can't imagine the ball finding a safe spot anywhere when you're scuffling that badly. I took an 0 for 37 in Double-A ball.
Really?
Not to mention I led the league in errors, but I took an 0 for 37 too.
Let me ask you, was that in the beginning, middle, or end of the season?
End of the season. It
Okay.
cost me a call-up.
You
though.
see, that I'm asking that because I always thought if a ball player is going to have a run like that, which is it's about a week's worth of at bats or 10 days.
11 straight
It
games
says 11.
left,
Okay, so it's a
yeah.
week and a half. If you're going to have that, you want that to be buried in the middle of the season when nobody knows. If there's the second worst time to have it is at the very beginning of the year
Yeah,
because
yeah.
then you're batting 0 something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the worst time would be to finish out that way.
You gotta sit on
So
the
what
bench.
did you do? What did you do to psych yourself? Did you bunt? Did you change your swing?
If I'd bunted, I'd have bunted back to the pitcher. It's just one of those, no matter what you did, it wasn't going to happen.
So you
They
just
gave me a
let-
day off,
Okay.
and then I scratched out 2 hits the next
Um,
day. I was
okay.
I know we chatted about this before when we did the gig with the kids, but it's a good question to put on the net. You were there when a guy named Thurman Munson was there, so I previously asked
I was in the
you-
big leagues.
Yeah, so I said, for this particular item, because it was a Thurman Munson item, write any association that you have with Thurman. And then you parlayed it into a short story for me. Would you share? It's good.
He's got a nerve. Let's talk about my short stories.
He's pure nerve.
Yes. Yes, it was 1979. It was early in the season. You're something like 8 for 22 or whatever it is, computes to 4 something. And we're at Yankee Stadium, and Munson comes from behind the dish, and he says, "Oh, we've got a 400 hitter here. Let's be careful. We got a 400 hitter here." And I'm kind of sheepishly, it was early in the season, and blah, 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 blah. And he was just welcoming me to the big leagues, which I thought was really nice. But then I grounded to short 3 times, so it was effective
That
on
was
his
the
part,
end
too.
of that.
Yeah, I know. I'm going, dang, honey, he did it. He got into my psyche. But
Because you were in that locker room where if you walked straight into the Yankees locker room, past the picnic table and the pillar, deep in the left-hand side was that empty locker room.
Mhm.
And I just didn't, having met him when the Yankees were playing at Shea, I just never walked over there, never took a picture, never did anything, because I had my camera for pictures in the locker room, and stayed away. Just a weird feeling for me.
We had gotten into Cleveland, I think, or at least I remember coming back to the hotel room, and I think we were in Cleveland at the time. And the news came on, and it said, it was like almost a teaser. It said, Yankee player killed in Canton, Ohio. And they left, and they came back. And I'm thinking at the time, oh my goodness, well, I knew that Munson lived, what little I knew
Yeah.
about other players, I knew he lived in Ohio. And I found myself thinking, well, geez, I hope it's not Thurman. And then I felt bad, because then you're hoping it's not anybody. I mean, why
Sure.
would you hope that it would be
Right.
anybody? But, and sure enough, my fears were true. And he was the only one of the 3 that were killed.
Marty Appel, who promoted our first book,
Mhm.
as he was writing the Munson book,
Mhm.
he was promoting our tour. So as he's writing the book and going deeper and deeper, and then sharing different stories, it was fun to have Marty sending us out there on the road, telling us, of course, there's 3 people in the plane. How many people that are, quote unquote, the greatest Yankee fan in the world know that Thurman was the only one that passed away?
Passed away, and the only one that died. I had the opportunity to interview Diana from one of her functions, I guess, the big one that she has in New York. It's been a while ago, but that was even nice too.
Yeah.
You talk about history, and just being a part of that was kind of nice, just to be around somebody that meant that much. A player's player. Like
If you were
Thurman was.
taking a kid to a ball game, and you were walking up to the window, you had to buy a ticket. You couldn't use your lifetime pass. You couldn't use anything Billy Sample. You're just a baseball fan, but with the same IQ, same intelligence, same everything you got. Who would you buy a ticket for you and the kid to see? You got 30 major league teams and 25 guys in each roster, so you got 750. But you're taking a teenager, like the kid over here from the high school, and you're going to be talking about, obviously, one of these players. Who do you want him to sit next to you and talk about at a game?
You really love this game a lot more than I, because I'm just, I could take him to 2 teams that are under 500, which was a lot of the times that I played, and find something interesting. Today's game, who would I take them to see? I start in spring training, because I tell people that's the best time to go to a game, to interact with people, to interact with players, because it's more relaxed. You can get somewhat intimate with the players, and then later on you get very intimate with. But you just get a closeness there, I think, that in an interaction that you don't get during the regular season.
I agree.
And I would say, yeah, Yankee Stadium, but what are the chances of you getting anything more
They
unless you're
park
in the first
underground
row?
now.
Yeah.
You don't even interact with them coming or to
Yeah.
and from the ballpark.
One of the best experiences we had was in Dunedin, Florida, watching the Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we were new to the game, and they were like treating us like royalty.
Yeah.
Going up there, we're just camped out in this press box, and they're giving us anything we want. And I'm just like, hey, I want to move to Dunedin. But that's the kind of treatment you get, because they're just happy to see you. It's their small town, and you're like a guest. And
As a media
You know?
member, I enjoyed interviewing the Phillies. And they
Moose
treated me well.
Clubhouse, I'll
Yeah,
give you
they
that.
treated me well. And Ryan treated me well, and Jimmy treated me well, and Shane treated me well. So a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I used to be a member of the Rookie Career Development Program as an orientation program
Is
for
that in
younger
DC?
players. Yeah, outside of
Yeah.
DC. And I was there for 15 years. So a lot of these guys I've had in my particular
Sure.
group. And I've seen them go through it when you've done it for 15 years. And then some guys have done it longer than I. Vance Law is still doing it.
Yep.
And I bet Vance is on about 20 years now. So it's nice because you see the kind of respect that they have for
Oh, yeah.
you. And sometimes I can't remember all of the people that are in my particular
Sure.
group, and they'll remember me, and that's quite flattering.
I compliment you though on getting the award your senior year and actually living your life to follow up. with-
Most versatile
Yeah,
award?
absolutely.
And I gotta close if I can.
I
but I got a
gotta close on
filmmaking
that.
question I have to ask, and it ties into the historian, and I got a great word for you. You're talking about epiphany, SAT words, anachronism. Anachronism being something out of place in time. When I watch films, and I'm not a filmmaker, I'm a writer, but I'm also like an amateur historian. So I'll watch a film, and I'll get bugged by things that don't bug other people. I'll say, wait a second. That song wasn't out. That song, like I'll watch Goodfellas, and they'll play a song and they'll say, wait, this is depicting
Impossible.
1958, but this song wasn't out until 1960. Or I was
Sure.
talking to Ian, I said, oh, I see a jukebox, and they go, they didn't use this type of jukebox, so they didn't have that jukebox then. So when I'm watching films, I'm criticizing, but I understand it's hard to make it. As a historian and most versatile, and you have flashbacks in the film, right, where you go back. Did you have to pay more attention because you're a stickler for those things, you're a historian?
Wow.
Well, you couldn't have any cell phones and
No, well,
older
obviously.
guys flashbacks.
Obviously.
Yeah, that was kind of easy. And along with what you're talking about, Rich, my daughter Nikki and I will watch a film and ruin it for you
Yes,
if you
I
don't
do that to my
match
kids.
if you don't match shots, and I found myself doing the same thing, not matching a shot. Maybe in a master, I use my left hand,
Right.
and then the close up, I use my right. I'm going, oh no, I can't. What am I doing? It's on my time, but still.
Right.
And I was just, I was thinking, geez, it's not all that easy
Yeah.
sometimes to coordinate all of that.
Well, yeah, if you're a stickler for that sort of thing, you're gonna be a better filmmaker, but it's also gonna be a more exacting process, because you're gonna demand more out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you demand that from other filmmakers, you're gonna, to be fair, you gotta demand that from yourself. But what I'm saying is, obviously there are visual things and cues that throw people like us off, but sometimes I'll hear a phrase, like, let's say the year's supposed to be 1965, and I'll hear a phrase
That's
like,
gross.
no, let
The word gross didn't-
no,
nobody
right,
was using
or
that
I'll
in
hear,
1965.
no, you didn't, right? No, no, you didn't. But the first time I heard that was maybe 1980 or something like that. But in my writer's mind, I go, okay, this phrase didn't start till then, blah 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 blah. I can't tell you how many movies I watch made by major studios where they throw in 90s dialogue into the 60s or 21st century dialogue into the 70s. So I'm just thinking, there's no exact answer to this question, but is it something that you try to put into your films?
Well, part of it, Rich, is that we had the older group trying to
Yeah.
educate the younger group
Right.
to see if there was any commonality
Sure.
among the two. So some of the terms that we would use in my generation,
Mhm.
in baseball terms, like mullion, you've heard the term mullion, like
Sure.
a 2 on a 10 scale as far as looks.
Oh, okay.
Or green fly, which is
Oh,
a green fly.
What's a green fly? I don't
Ray
know.
Burris, right? Ray Burris taught
I
me
know Ray
green
Burris.
fly
Green
when I was a
fly.
young
Green
man.
fly
He goes,
is-
Billy, come over here. Billy, you see all those people that keep bothering me? They're green flies.
They're
Okay.
green fly.
Okay.
Because they're buzzing around their
I understand,
favorite
I get it.
instrument, yeah.
See, all that language is the texture of our generation, and I mean, some of it carries over,
Mhm.
okay? A jerk is a jerk and an a-hole is an a-hole, but a lot of it just dies out. A lot of it dies out, and I think when you're writing dialogue, you gotta think about that.
We had some where we ran into all kind of logistical problems because we had a stadium that we were planning to use, and their players canceled on us at the last minute. So there were some shortcomings, and in one scene, we've got to figure out how to quite cover this. I think I know how I'm going to cover it, but we had base runners without helmets on, and that would only work for like the 1950s or early
Right.
19s. I guess you had the little piece.
And when you say
inside.
cover it, for a non-filmmakers, by cover you mean there's background, or there's overall shots.
I don't know how we're gonna cover it,
Yeah,
but we're gonna cover
right.
it. If nothing else, I'm gonna create a scene where all you see is the runner's feet. And which I think is different.
Yeah, very
It was
cool.
out of necessity, but
Mhm.
it was, I thought, okay, we can say, so the player, it's sort of long to set it up, but the player ends up throwing the ball away, not like me in high school, but even better. And so, but he's going through his mind because he finds out he's getting called up to the majors, but his team made the playoffs. So there's a little bit of a conundrum because he doesn't want, because you go up
He's
to the
got a
majors, you get
conflict-
major time. Yeah,
conflict of
because
interest, right.
you're making, first year on a AAA
Right.
roster, you're making maybe $3,000 a month. You
Mhm.
go up to the big leagues, you're prorated against a $400,000, well now it's a $500,000 salary. So you stand to lose about $60-some thousand, or maybe a little less than that, but the difference between a prorated month in the big leagues and $3,000 a month. So anyway, so it's a long story. So he's going, all this is going through his mind as the ball's coming to him, as he feels. So I think what we're gonna do is you just see the feet just moving. I think that's the way I'm gonna cover that.
My final question, I want to go to the deepest part of my heart, and because of how many times in my life I've had to pick up the phone, and the human being on the other end was so sincere. That's why I'm digging deep, and I only can ask this
I
question
know
the
where
whole
this is
world
going. Yeah.
of you, and so I have
Only once
a
have I been
genuine.
Billy
That's
Staples.
where I'm
Only
getting.
once. Only once.
I have given many minutes of my life, and when they find out that I don't have the TAN or the batting average or the ESPN or the SI, they ask me,
But you got
well,
a
who
convertible
are you?
Mercedes, so I mean, you're doing all right, man. Jeez.
So my question is, has anyone ever said, are you Billy
Once. I think
Staples?
one time one time I got you, and I'm trying to remember the exact situation. Was it over the phone? I remember one time, because since you've said that, it's happened to you a few times. One time it happened to me, and I'll have to think long and hard to remember exactly how it happened, because I just immediately put it out of my mind. It's, how dare they? No, but you're kind of a built guy. It's
Right.
okay. Built, you've done
This
a
is
lot
for
of good
Mike
things.
Torres, in case we ever go on the computer. Mike, when I got out of the car to pick up your bags at Newark Airport, granted, you won a lot of big league games, but I never saw a human being more in shock when you went, I just flew across the country,
Oh, geez.
and your name's not Billy Sample? I'm not appearing with Billy Sample? That was humiliating for me. Both of us got paid, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I did it.
But we did okay.
Yeah, money has a way of absolving. all
Billy
those
Sample,
things.
before the glory,
Oh.
thank you for your time.
Billy,
man.
yeah,
I
always,
appreciate it.
always, yeah,
Are you
thank
kidding
you,
me?
anytime.
Thank you, and
Rich?
you and I will never be confused, but that's okay. It was a pleasure to be in the
Rich,
same
yeah,
video
no,
with you.
That's great, no, thank you, we're fellow writers, I like this.
Absolutely.
As I tell Paul Hagen, I ascribe to be a scribe, so it's
By the
much
way,
different,
Paul
you
Hagen,
guys.
man, there is the guy that's absolutely class act.
Yeah, I
Love
love
him.
him. We've known each other a long